Yay! 3 weeks in a row. 3 podcasts in a row. Technically, even when we were trying, I don't think we had 3 in a row. I'm pretty sure we didn't have 3 podcasts in a row.
Definitely not. No, no
No.
way. If we had a
Season
podcast once per month for 3 months in a row, that was good.
season 3 is off to a banging start here.
Season 3.
Amazing. I just made that. I don't know how many times we even did one in season 1, but I just figured I'd make it season 3 for some gravitas. Now that I got the professor with me this week, unlike last week, I got to figure out better adjectives than good and fun and try to use some bigger words. So if you don't know, PJ is the originator of False Cast. Pretty sure you put this whole thing together. Technically, your company is our sponsor, unofficially, officially, Drift and Mend. Check them out at Drift and Mend. It's not .balls. I believe it's .org. What is it?
This is .com. Driftandmenflyfishing.com.
That's right. Driftandmenflyfishing.com. Link in the bio. Just kidding. I don't know how to do any of that. Figure it out. For the 8 people that watch, and subscribe, you'll figure it out. So PJ's on this week. We're going to talk about how the East Coast, like a gangster rap battle, gets a bad rap. East Coast fishing is the shit, or it needs its respect. We're going to talk about that as East Coast fly fishermen. You ready? Just like trout bitten. Ready? Here we go. All right. If you don't watch that, it's not going to make any sense. Anyway, let's talk East Coast fishing or anything else you want to bring up before we get into East Coast fishing,
Well,
Davidson River, East Coast.
Our official logo does mention music and beer and bourbon.
Are we getting back into that? Oh my God.
What are you? Well, before we start, what are you sipping on?
I ran out of beer last week. Your brother didn't bring that up well either, I don't think. So I ran out of Treehouse Brewing, which is an awesome brewery that opened up here. So this week, since I don't have any beer, it's Eagle Rare. What a nice little glass of Eagle Rare.
Nice.
I know. I went high class for you. I went high class.
I appreciate it.
And you were drinking.
Is that hard to find up there?
I don't think so. It's not bad. Just more expensive.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Rather bullshit.
Hard down. It's hard to find down here. So I have
Bud
the
Light?
classic. Yeah. The classic R&D Brewing 7 Saturdays from here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
7 Saturdays is so good. So good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the go-to.
So if Eagle Rare and 7 Saturdays would like to sponsor a podcast with 30 viewers, you'll find us somewhere.
Yeah. DM us.
Yeah.
Slide in
DM us. Slide up in there. I'll try to get the OnlyFans girls out of the DMs and maybe we can for some reason. Quick music hit. You want to do that at the end or right now? No one will make it to the end, so you should say any music you're listening to right
now. Let's see. What's the latest?
That isn't Jason Isbell.
Although I can't say Jason Isbell. Oh no, I've been into the old Wolfpack a lot lately. VULFPECK for those who aren't familiar. Awesome, kind of like funk jazz band. He's got a really good bass player, Joe Dart. So that's what I've been into.
Funny that guy's name sounds like Joe Dirt, but yes, that is a good band.
I
know. You know what I've been listening to? Waxahachie. Do you know that woman is?
I have heard of that. Yes.
I believe his name is an MJ Letterman or Lederman. Plays with him a lot. Also from either Charlotte or Raleigh or Asheville, somewhere in that area, I think. I've been listening to a lot of that though. It's been very good. So I can't spell it, but if you put WAX somewhere, you'll probably figure it out. Or a radio station that's WAX something. One way or the other. Figure out how to spell Waxahachie and you'll get there. Or look it up. That's what I've been listening to. Super good. Great lyricist, obviously, as Jason is, both fanboys that we are. She's up there. She's very much like an Isbell type writer, great lyrics. So I can play that guitar.
I'll throw one more in. Here in Utah.
Twofer.
Yeah, bonus. Here in Utah, maybe think of Watch House, formerly known as Mandolin Orange.
Yeah. Why did they change their name? They get sued by somebody.
Mandolin Orange is kind of, I don't know.
I gotcha.
I guess it's a play on Mandarin Orange, and it wasn't. After a while, it was like, maybe this isn't a very good name. No, but I think they're a husband and wife duo. It's just guitar and a fiddle, I think. So they're
Oh,
pretty
maybe
good
I
too.
do know that. Yeah. I have to look it up, but sounds familiar now that you say that part. I haven't
Yeah,
listened to
they're
a
good.
lot of it if I have. Yeah. All right, look at you following the brand. It's like you're in marketing or you own the company or you started the whole thing. It's something. I don't know. And I'm somehow making it happen. I don't know. Just trying to tell you how hard I'm working at this.
You're
Trying to get you
IT.
out there. I am. Fuck. We're not gonna make it. We are not gonna make it. All right. I like the setup. You should have been first on this goddamn thing, but we're getting there.
All right.
I've gotten a couple of yeses from some people who want to be on. Just saying.
Oh yeah.
Hmm. Maybe some
Does one
surprise
of
guests.
them name with Dom Glosenbauer?
I don't know what that means, but no. No? That was weird, but maybe. I don't know what that is. I have to think about it later. But again, if anyone's listening, the two big takeaways from the podcast, now that PJ's got us on track, what we're drinking, what we're listening to. If any person on the internet at all ever wants to be on this podcast, no relation to fly fishing, even, just let us know. We'll get you on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Also, my quest to catch a giant fish on the bat and kill, haven't gone fishing. So that hasn't happened, but it's on the docket. We'll see. It'll happen.
Shout out to the fish behind you there on the screen.
We'll get
Look at
there.
that.
Now it goes
Oh,
away
it
because
just
I don't
turned
know.
off again.
I know. I don't know how this TV works, but that fish that disappeared was from Maine. So we'll probably
There you go.
talk about that
Segue. Should we
in
start there?
my segue into East Coast fishing. Now, if you watch a lot of fly fishing, anything or read anything, almost entirely, if you're going to go fishing, where are you going to go? Colorado, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming. If you're rich and you can make it out there, good luck.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
live in the East Coast and you don't have a VW camper van or a $150,000 truck bed camper that you don't have a job with, it's tough to get out there. I've had 2 trips canceled to Colorado that I was trying to get there. So I've never fished there. You've never
Oh,
fished
I
out
didn't know that.
west. Yeah, right? You've never really fished out west.
Nope.
So we have no point of reference in
Well, I've fished
fish in Oregon,
out in
right?
Oregon, but not
Right.
like the classic what
Right.
you're talking
Right.
about, Montana and stuff like that.
Yeah. So comparatively, we cannot discuss the West. We don't know. But I will say
No.
the East Coast gets shit on. Uh it's harder. I think it's harder from what I've seen, but I think it's great. So we're going to talk about some of the East Coast fishing that we think, and we should start with where you have a place and I lived for many years in Western North Carolina. I have a couple of not hot takes at all, but when I really started fishing hard, Great Smoky Mountain National Park, I probably fished there for 4 or 5 years, 40 weekends a year. It's probably like just kind of like an unsung hero, a gem. It's the most visited national park in the country. And I fished there every weekend almost and barely ran into people fishing. So it's an amazing kind
That
of,
was going to be my question. Yeah, is it
yeah,
overrun with fishermen?
it's so easy to go find somewhere to fish and there's never anybody. There's like 5 million or 20 million visitors or whatever it is a year. And, every trail runs next to water. Every slick of water's got fish in it. It's immensely fun. Now, all I ever did was dry fly fishing there, which is a good place to do it because they're pretty much looking up almost 100%
Yeah.
of the time. But some of the best wild trout, native brook trout fishing, I think, on the East Coast, especially for somewhere like Asheville's nearby. Tennessee is right there. Obviously, the park splits North Carolina, Tennessee, Raleigh, Charlotte. You can get there so fast, so easy. So pretty amazing spot. And of course, next to where you have Western North Carolina in general, I think is another kind of, on the map, but not appreciated enough. You got a place,
No,
blanket
I
out.
totally agree with you. You know, I did that one that I've only been to the Smokies to fish once, and that was way before I knew what the hell I was doing
Yeah.
with fly fishing. I went with you guys. And what would you say? You mentioned you're getting brook trout. Is there like if you caught 10 fish a day, like on an average day, what would be how many would be brookies, rainbows, and browns? Do you think is it kind of
In the
even or is
park,
there? Yeah,
I mean, there are a lot of brook trout, but I mean, I can't even count how many times I got the slam in the park. Like, I think it's pretty
yeah,
even distribution. They protect brook trout more. There are streams where they killed everything out and introduced only native strand brook trout. So if you're fishing those, you're obviously going to be,
Yeah.
overwhelmingly brook trout. But in those main stems, they're big browns, they're great browns. But I've many, many times got the slam and caught all three
Nice.
all over the place. So, which is cool. You catch a bigger brown that was maybe tucked up against the bank, a rainbow like in the waterfalls, jumping, and obviously brook trout just almost in any spot, any hole. So it's all over the place. But yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, so we have a place up there in Boone. That's an awesome place too. Smokies is kind of what like southwestern North Carolina and over into Tennessee, and then
Yeah.
the Boone area is northwestern North Carolina. So you got the New River there. That's the one that I'm fishing the most, but probably not probably, definitely the more well-known river in that part of the state is the Watauga. Um, and that one goes into Tennessee. You've got the Holston there also, and then all in between. There's the Toe, there's the Nantahala, there's shout out to your T-shirt, the Davidson. There's all kinds of really
You
good.
want to see a dead dog, a family tubing, and a 30-inch rainbow, go to the Davidson. Hard place to fish. It's really, I've seen some of the biggest fish in my life in that river. I never caught them, but it's a it's a wild spot. But
Well,
yeah.
we went on that float on the Watauga, and our guides were like, "Oh yeah, see that house up there? Yeah, a guy got killed there last week, and we
That's
saw his
right.
dead
We
body
did
lying
take
on
a
the
trip
ground as we floated by last week. We're like, oh my
on the
god,
Watauga, and yes, they mentioned that they had found a murder suspect. So I don't know if that's
doesn't East Coast fishing sound amazing?"
a little bit of 2020, a little bit of yeah.
Oh man, yeah. No, but
However,
yeah,
you bring up another great point of you got the Holston, the Watauga, tailwaters that hold a lot of fish, big fish. Tears in his eyes. The fish came up to me and he said, uh, there's some really good tailwaters on the East Coast, in the South especially, and a river that you fish with me. Up here you have the Delaware, which might be super well known, but I think it's a really tough place with giant trout, and a great tailwater and a great fishery. So those three alone for East Coast tailwaters, pretty spectacular. I mean, we had good days. I've fished the Watauga, the Holston, and the Delaware. I think you fished all three, right? Or did you not fish the
I've never fished a
Holston?
Holston. Yeah,
Joe and I fished the Holston. So I fished all three. I think Delaware wins for big fish, that you're really targeting. Uh, the Holston and the Watauga, great fish. I mean, I think Joe Rob and I caught, I don't know, 40 fish each
the
on.
numbers are crazy. Yeah,
Numbers were crazy. The guy, when we went with your brother, guaranteed us we would catch fish. I'd never had a guide be like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna slay him today." Like, don't say that, but he was right. And we
yeah,
caught, an ungodly amount of fish that were really the same size. But again, still hard to do. Still really hard to put fish in the
yeah.
boat. So, uh, good point on the tailwater. So, what's next? What do you think next on the East Coast?
Um, well, I just want one more thing on our streams here. I feel like when I
Mm-hmm.
envision the stuff I've seen of the rivers out in Montana and Idaho and that part of the country, like the landscape is so different here.
Yeah.
Especially if you're talking about the Smokies, like it's a such a different experience from what I can tell. I've never been out west, but like in the Smokies trip that we did, you're hiking in, you're backpacking in, you're setting up a tent, and it's a you're kind of in a East Coast sort of rhododendron jungle kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like
I mean, you got Smokies, which is like technically a temperate rainforest, versus
yeah,
like some of those landscapes out west where I think are like obviously the mountains are amazing, but seems like a lot of those rivers are, in those valleys, and you're not almost bushwhacking through, right?
yeah,
To be in that kind of deciduous forest, that rainforest type area, depending on
yeah.
where you are. Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for some of the rivers, some of the streams and stuff out here, especially when you get into the blue lining stuff, where it's like you're like really out in the
Yeah.
forest, which I think
Yeah.
is it's cool and challenging. Obviously, you've got not a lot of room to cast, but it's cool in its own right.
Yeah. I think I have no idea, like I said, but from a blue lining perspective, I think when I was fishing a lot in Western North Carolina, I would specifically try to blue line, have some fun, try to find like very small native brook trout, small fish, small wild fish, rainbows, etc. But yeah, you're roll casting or bow and arrow casting or like
Yep.
really bushwhacking through and finding those spots pretty fun and a totally different experience. And I think it's cool because you can go from big tailwater to something like the new or the tow to blue line, and you can do it in a 30-mile radius really
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of different kinds of water.
be a lot of different kinds of water that you can access too. And I always hear, obviously, it's tough land access out west, depending on private land and what you got. And I feel like there's a lot of public land, especially in North Carolina. There's a lot in New York here too, as well. The Adirondacks. There's a lot of places you can go fish. There's not as much public land. I mean, private land, but pretty amazing experience when you can do all that at once. So, Western North Carolina is always going to be special for both of us, I think. So there's always a ton
Yep.
there. So, but uh the next that I would say, because I know you haven't been there yet, it's on your bucket list and you got to go, is Maine, because I always feel Maine is like Alaska of the lower 48 to me. I think it's like where you go fishing in the Maine mountains and the Rangeley area. Um, Super remote, has that tannin stained tea colored water, wild brook trout, native and wild brook trout, landlocked salmon, very well managed, big brook trout. Um, you know, Very historical, Carrie Stevens and the whole history behind Maine and that place. I mean, I love it. I fish there as much as I possibly can. I think it's a magical spot. But again, East Coast is far northeast you can get on the East Coast, but amazing spot. I know you haven't fished it. You got to get up there and fish it. But big brook trout and probably the last spot where you can catch legit, you know, 20-inch brook trout, which I've been lucky enough to catch a
Man.
few. And people go up there and will target very big brook trout. And I think outside of
Yeah.
like Newfoundland and Labrador, that's where you got to go for big brook trout. And it's accessible. There's a lot of private land. I think there's tough spots, there's public spots, but you can do it. And you legitimately have a shot at a 20+ inch brook trout, which is pretty wild for mainland US, lower 48 stuff. Yeah.
And the thing that I enjoy hearing about for your trips up there is something I'm completely unfamiliar with is the still water fishing
Yeah.
that you do.
Which
Talk about
I
that.
never stillwater lake fished, pond fished for brook trout. My father-in-law took me up there the first time that ever happened, and you see rising brook trout, and you're targeting rising brook trout out of a canoe or a kayak or a boat or whatever. It's pretty amazing, and it hooks you immediately to be like, oh, it's like, I don't have to trump through the woods, and I get to be in this boat and cast a rising brook trout, and same depending on where you're getting legitimate shot at 14, 16, 18-inch brook trout rising in a lake. So yeah, that is a West Coast thing. I think there are Western places where you can fish lakes for big trout, obviously, but to fish like wild native brook trout in those kind of ponds and lakes and beaver ponds, I've hiked in and fished beaver ponds for wild brook trout. And like, you sit there smaller, you're catching 8-inch brook trout, but you might catch 50, you know what I mean? Just like an all day, and it's all dry fly, right? All dry fly fishing. Lots of people fish sinking line into the lake for big brook trout, but you can catch big brook trout on a dry fly and do it all day, and evening hatch and real hatches. Pretty cool. So yeah, definitely an experience worth trying to figure out. Get up there.
On the bucket list for sure.
Definitely on the bucket list. Super fun. The next one, which you also fished, right, is not counting the Delaware, is the Roscoe area of the Beaver Kill and the Willow Weemock, and still fishing the east and west branch of the Delaware wild, by yourself up there. So same thing, there's some.
And the Bat and Kill too, right? We did that on that same trip.
And you fished that's right. And the Bat and Kill up here, which crosses New York and Vermont, very historical where Orvis is. But yeah, those are two places that have steeped in history. The Catskills having basically the birthplace of dry fly fishing in the US. And we've caught big fish, big wild fish in places that you can just drive up to and fish. Great hatches and an amazing spot, right? Roscoe voted Trout Town USA. I was probably like 50 years ago now, but whatever. Any town you go into, especially in the East Coast, we don't have a lot of fly shops. You go down Main Street and there's 4 fly shops, right, that are there. Yeah. And multiple outfitters to drift you around and stuff. It's pretty amazing also. And I mean, you fished it. I'm curious your take of coming from Western North Carolina and then kind of fishing the Delaware and Roscoe and the Beaver Kill and all those places.
Yeah, when we stayed in Roscoe, um, like you're saying, the first thing that kind of stands out to me when I think back about it is the town itself, and it is more of a fly fishing town than any other town I've ever been to. It's that's what it is.
That's the business, right? Everybody there is fishing mostly.
Yep. Yeah. And then there's those. Is it just two streams, or is it three that come together right at Roscoe? Is it the Willow Weemock and the Beaver?
The Junction Pool is the Willow Weemock and the Beaver Kill. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But then at the other place that we were fishing is the east and west branch, I think, of the Delaware that then turned into the Beaver Kill. Someone's gonna murder us if they ever actually watch this thing. Yeah. You get the idea. Yeah.
But yeah, I was just struck by just how many options there were. Like where you could go and throw a line in. We had a great little place, Airbnb on the Willow Weemock, and we could walk across the street and hop in there.
That was great. Walk across the street and fish. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Delaware, I think at that point, I think that was my first float trip ever.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. And that was sort of a education and like, okay, these, the fish that I'm on usually in Boone are not too stubborn. But that one and the Delaware was a little bit of an introduction to these
Delaware
fish have that fly 1,000 times today, and so
the Delaware will humble your ass.
You're gonna have to try something else, or you're gonna have to give them a way better cast than that, or whatever. So it's obviously it's different, but it's fun. It's different in a fun way, and it forces you to sort of like lock in the way that people, I guess, more traditionally think about fly fishing, like, changing a fly just barely different, but that's the one that they're going to want.
The actual like tactical strategy of it comes there where you're like, I don't know, I used a gray fly and I caught a bunch of fish. Like that shit's not going to fly probably, especially as weary as those trout can get. And the craziness of having like a 24-inch fish, a quarter-inch off the bank, rising barely, just its mouth coming up and gorging itself on flies, on naturals, and you can't catch it. It won't move.
And there was a time when we rented that drift boat. I don't know why they let us do that. We rented that drift boat and we anchored down on that one spot it was probably at least 2 hours.
It was 2 hours.
Fish consistently rising for all of those 2 hours up and down the seam. And
caught one. Mo caught one. I don't think that was it, right? We didn't catch any other fish.
Mo caught one. And after we had drifted, dozens of different flies over top of him, Mo caught one. And we thought, okay, he's got the secret sauce.
Yeah, he's got the fly. This is it.
We put those on and just like, nope, I'm good. But they're still eating something off the surface. We just couldn't tell what it was. So that was definitely the moment. That was
a real guide
would have moment of that trip.
Right, and a real guide would have left and got the hell out of there.
Yeah,
not us.
Yeah, I am anchored down. I think I was in the captain's seat on that one.
I think so. I was up front, Mo was at the back.
You guys are getting these fish. We're here.
No, one. No. Yeah. But that area is an experience for sure. And if you get a chance to fish the Delaware, my God, it's just insane.
We did the East Branch the first day with the guides, and then we did the DIY on the West Branch.
That's right, East Branch. Zach, shout out to Zach.
Oh man,
great guide. I lost, not his fault, my fault, or no one's fault. One of the biggest rainbows I'd ever hooked on a dry fly. And Zach drug us upriver so that we could. It
was a slab.
Yeah, just an absolute crazy eat. Saw its whole head. Easy take the fly and just like a nice easy set totally hooked, and it had a fucking dropper on it, and the dropper got hooked on a rock and snapped that fish off close to us too, like it was coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that fish a lot, a lot, way too much, more than I even remotely should. But
and then we had that. The next day, we had that rainstorm in the middle of our float, and it finally let up, and we found a place that looked good, and we anchored down. Well, we got off to the side, and we all got out of the boat, and I saw at least a 20-inch brown trout come all the way out of the water in the middle of the seam, and I went over to the bank, shit my pants, and came back and tried to catch it, and nothing happened.
Yeah, no way.
There's huge fish in that river.
There are just they be monsters in there for sure. There's some monsters in there. So I'm trying to think of other places that I have fished on the East Coast, because I know you and I talked about like what else, things that we haven't fished. I think between Maine, I fish Vermont. Vermont's a tough state because I feel like they don't take care of it. New York's got the West Branch of the Ausable up north, which is a good river that you have also fished. And like you said, the Battenkill. They don't compare to Roscoe. They don't compare to those giant fish in the Delaware and other places. But, and as we go down, Jim's not on here. Pennsylvania is another super hotbed, and Penns Creek, which you fish, you talk about that. I've never fished Pennsylvania. It's on my bucket list. Same with like the Deerfield Mass. I haven't fished that either, but talk about Penns Creek, because you did get to fish that, and you caught some really nice fish there.
I caught my personal best rainbow in Penns Creek. That's a really cool spot. Specifically the place. I honestly don't know how many, like how accessible it is, up and down the stream. Our cousin Jim, he sort of was like, this is where we camp every year. It's a campground on the stream.
Yeah.
And you camp there, and basically wherever you can walk to the stream, you can fish. So that specific campground, is awesome for access. But yeah, we camped out there, and it's funny. I joke about it all the time, but that one's called a creek, but it is absolutely larger than the new river.
Yeah.
In Boone, but really, really cool piece of water. There's where I'm more used to the stuff down here in Boone, and we don't get like the really legit huge noticeable hatches. But up there in Penns Creek, like everyone who's there to fish is planning their day around when we were going up the March Brown hatch and the Spitter Fall. Like everyone was like there at the river, and the cool part was we were just sitting there because you can see the bugs flying above the water.
Yeah, waiting for them to drop.
We're drinking a beer, we're talking, shooting the shit, and we're keeping an eye on the bugs, seeing how high they are above the water, and then all of a sudden they start falling, and so then everybody starts fishing.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool experience. That was a first for me. Like I said, there's big wild fish in there. That rainbow I caught was wild. Caught them on dries, caught them on droppers. Jeff caught a brook trout in there.
Right, yeah.
We didn't think that was coming. I netted it for him, and I'm like, holy shit, it's a brook trout. He's like, what? So yeah, that's a really great river, and like the campground itself, that place is just perfect for a bunch of dudes who are just there to hang out and eat and drink and fish.
And free. Well, not free, but no private land. Go in.
Right.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
And not free, but obviously, affordable, given that you're camping and not staying in a hotel or renting a house or anything like that.
Or renting a drift boat that you run into a rock. Stuff like that.
Exactly. I don't know who does that. Not me.
Not us. We signed a waiver that said, "Hey, okay."
How's your back, by the way?
Never better. Took a minute. That took a minute. That hit lasted. It stuck around for a while. That was a hard hit.
For all of our 12 listeners who aren't in on this inside joke story, we rented that drift boat, and we floated it down the west branch of the Delaware. I think we paid $250 for it or something like that.
I think it maybe
And
maybe it was $300 for the three of us, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which, given what you would pay for a guide, like,
Right, you're
yeah,
gonna pay
let's do it.
500 plus for a
Yeah,
guide. Yep.
yeah. And so it was getting a little bit late. It wasn't dark by any means. It was getting a little bit later in the day. I was in the captain's seat, and we're navigating a little bit faster water. And you're standing up front.
I'm in the front, the bow.
Yeah, you're at the bow. Sorry, I got to use my nautical terms. And you're standing up front and going down the river, and I'm feeling pretty good about the job that I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, I mean, we're moving along pretty good. This is faster.
You got into the faster part.
Yeah, and we are immediately motionless. And like you can hear the crash of the boat into the rock echo throughout the valley or whatever. You almost go overboard.
So I mean, like, I'm no physics major, but if we're moving 25 miles an hour and then you come to a dead stop, your body still wants to move 25 miles an hour. And I'm in the gunnel thing, that you sit in.
Oh, yeah, that thing saved you.
I guess, or it killed me, whichever. So you hit the rock, and it's just like my body just stopped moving, and it's just like I could feel a shock wave through my body in my back. Oh, in my back! Oh my god, we absolutely hammered that thing. Holy shit!
Shout out to whatever. Do you know what kind of boat that was? Because it took a fucking beating.
I think it was a Clackacraft drift boat.
Shout out to Clackacraft if they want to get on a podcast with us.
I don't want to say the name of where we got it, but man, yeah, that hurt. That hurt bad. And technically, like, the water that day was only like 500 CFS, or it was not a fast day by any. So those guides that can run those boats like that, holy shit, that's some.
There's so much involved.
So as soon as you get in it too, you're like, Jesus Christ, these oars are heavy. You're like trying to. Oh my god. Quick on that one though too, because one of the greatest, like, I had so much fun. We get in that boat, it's like in a mud hole eddy when we get in it, like just by itself. We get in and I had the most experience because I'd actually rowed a boat once, so I started with zero. And so we go, there's another drift boat with two guys fishing. We immediately blow their hole up. We go right in front of them because we can't control this. Because
we can't control
it. Yeah, spinning in a circle and run in front of them. And we're like, sorry.
Don't make eye contact.
I know. And then, but 50 yards down the river, I see a fish rising, and we stop the boat in at least a half-ass enough place, put the anchor down, and you caught that fish. It was probably 12 inches. It may as well have been 4 feet long. We all went bananas while those guys are like, look at these idiots. We're basically fishing trash water. It was amazing. I was like, we did everything right. It was like maybe one of the best fishing experiences of my life. Like, look at that. I didn't even fish. I wasn't even fishing.
Yeah.
Wasn't even having.
You guided me to it, sir. Thank you.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Oh, that was a hell of a day. Now there are places like I don't even know about and I don't fish for. And we'll run through these because I think they're all on my bucket list. Redfish, like in North and South Carolina, and I mean anywhere down the southern eastern coast, right? I think it might be the one thing that would make me, if I lived in those types of areas, like a Charleston area, that if I fished redfish and had a boat and was rich, that might actually get me to stop trout fishing if I had that kind of access. It looks that fun. It looks so amazing. Striper fishing, spelled stripper, pronounced striper. I almost said stripper fishing. Looking for strippers. Up here, I mean, I should try to do it in Cape Cod, Maine, Massachusetts, obviously great places. People who fish striper like that are obsessed, right? They're obsessed.
And those are up and down the coast. I'm pretty sure,
right? I mean, they migrate up and down the coast, so it's anywhere. I was just thinking selfishly of myself, where only I would go without you guys if you were around. But yeah, I mean, like, there are people, that's all they do, right? They either redfish or they striper fish, or that's what they do. And you mentioned saying like bone fishing in the Keys, right? Or that any of that saltwater kind of clear water, I don't know what else is out there because, again, I don't have that money to go Keys bone fishing, but I would love to. It looks awesome walking the flats and fishing for bonefish or sight fishing for bonefish. My God. Yeah.
I've seen a guy. My parents have a little condo at the beach, and they made friends with this local couple on the pier just many years ago. But they were mainly pier fishermen, but then he also sometimes would carry a fly rod at certain times of the year.
Yeah.
And one day we were on the pier, and these bluefish were running right behind the breakers. And so he takes his fly rod down to the beach, and so he's surf fishing with a fly rod, and he catches a gigantic blue surf fishing on a fly rod.
That's awesome.
And it was amazing to watch. That was before I was into fly fishing, but I was like, that looks like the most fun anyone's ever
look at
had.
this idiot. What is he doing?
Yeah, it was huge. It was probably at least 10, 15 pounds, this blue.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think that's like, no matter what you get. I mean, you see some of these redfish too, right? They look like, I don't know how much they weigh. Same thing, 10 pounds, 8 pounds, 7 pounds. Those are monster fish, and they pull. They look like they fight like hell.
Yeah.
It's got to be. We got to get that on the list. Got to try it out.
Yes.
Yeah. So, tip to taint, Maine to Florida. It's pretty East Coast, baby. It's East Coast.
Don't hate on it. Don't hate on it.
I think it's hard, and I think that's why people shit on it, because I feel like, fish per mile is probably not as big in some of these places, unlike like they think the Delaware is, but other places aren't. You gotta fucking know what you're doing a lot of time, I think, especially in these wild areas. Go catch these fish versus these. I think Montana. I think we just roll up in there and catch a bunch of fish. That's what I think. That's what it looks like.
Do that, me.
I'm sure it's not the case. I just think it's hard. I think East Coast needs to. Not bad. I think. So. I think if you're out west, you gotta realize, you gotta put some respect on it. Put the East Coast.
Maybe you West Coast fishermen, how about take a bucket list trip to the East? Reverse it up a little bit.
I mean, for less than $200, we'll take you down to Delaware and see what.
Yeah, see how. If you need your spine adjusted afterwards.
It's a chiropractic drift boat.
Yeah.
It'll get you there. Yeah. And we didn't even talk about shad, maybe one of the greatest sport fish that ever existed. When Mo comes back, it's androgynous, goes to the ocean, comes to the poo plant. You can catch them right there. Used to be big business in Maryland or some shit. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. That's it. That's the East Coast podcast. And another guest 3 weeks in a row. We're going for 26 weeks. Just need it. Go. Let's go. And don't forget, if you want to be on the podcast, whoever you are, anywhere in the world, you can join. We'll talk about anything. Who cares? And then maybe one of these weeks I'll get back on the bag kill, take some pictures, not catch that brown trout. That's it. That's the podcast. That's my man, PJ. Love you, brother.
Peace.
Peace.